I'll start with a quick review for this book, The Wisdom of Finance. I'll give this book 3 out of 5. I almost gave it a 2. It has some good information at times, but the connection between what he learned from finance to real life is a little flimsy. I'll have more details in the notes section. In addition, there is not enough wisdom of finance. There is no actually, I haven't learned that much about finance in general. So most of what he goes through is like very fundamental ideas, and he doesn't go through much of them. So I could even say that even though it's a short book, it's a little longer than it could have been. And some of the ideas, the connection between the actual wisdom of it is not the greatest, in my opinion. Let's see the notes. First one is insurance is the business of probability. That's in general what insurance is probability. How many, when people die, how often, and things like that. It's basically all a game of probability. Dust particles don't move continuously, or move districtly as other particles bump into them. I forgot what in connection to what was it, but it was still interesting. So it's not that they move continuously. It's not that there's like moving from one place to another continuously. There's more distinct movement, which is like a bump from here to there, and with the environment. So the environment bumps it up in a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, a little up, a little down. I forget what's the idea behind it, but still good to know. When purchasing something, we need to calculate what we could do with this money and time, like degree or house. So when we buy a house or a degree, we need to think about, there is a name for it, I forgot, but we need to think about what could we do with the time and money and everything we invested in it. Sometimes, or oftentimes, we fail to account such things. In finance, meeting expectation is not enough. You have to create additional value. So just meeting the expectations is not enough. You have to beat the expectations some way, and that's what happens many times in Wall Street. If you just meet the expectations, sometimes your stock will go down, or people would not invest with you. They're looking for a beating estimation. Shareholders often have a hard time controlling CEO. Therefore, when a CEO dies, shares will go up sometimes. So it actually happens that sometimes when the CEO dies, the share goes up, which you might think that it's not, why would it go up when a CEO dies? Because sometimes the shareholders don't have enough power over the CEO, so they're actually doing whatever they want. And when they die, that means that they will have more power looking forward. Many companies and managers are seeking short-term gains over long-term. They don't think enough in the long term. They're just seeking short-term views, and they're not trying to actually think forward what's going to be in the long term, which is also not good for us in real life. Kids of demanding parents learn how to satisfy by don't have their own sense of achievement. They learn very well how to satisfy demands, but they don't have their own sense of achievement because they only know to do what is expected of them. Side note, there are too many stories in the book. The connection between finance to real life is a bit flimsy. So there are a lot of stories, mostly stories, which he actually start the book by saying that stories are the best way to learn and blah blah blah. General bullshit. But there are too many, and they are too long. And the connection between them to real life is a little flimsy and not as good. So you could choose better stories, make them shorter or whatever, but in my opinion, it wasn't good. Marriage used to serve as a merger between families and businesses. It used to be so you don't choose, of course not always, but sometimes two companies will merge for business or other necessities, and they would marry their kids, regardless of whether they like one another or not, as a business or to develop a relationship between the families, not between the individuals. Side note, there are too many stories and they tend to be too long. So I get back to this idea because it was kind of annoying at times, a little too long. But eventually end up giving this book 2 stars because I thought coming into this book, I thought wisdom of science, what can we learn from science? What science has to teach us? Not necessarily about I didn't know it's about our lives, so that's what he's trying to do, but just in general. What's good things about finance? And this is not what actually happening. Not much about finance, and as I said, the connection is not the best. Leverage is basically borrowing money and is allowing people to live better than they could otherwise. That's what leverage does. It's borrowing money we don't have. And people with leverage can live a better life if they could do without it. Leverage can amplify returns as well as losses, so it's kind of a multiplier. If you're losing, are you going to lose much more because your house is now worth less and you have to sell it and your down payment is down and all that shit. And if you up, you also go way up because it's not your money. You doubled a money that was not yours, but you still got the doubled. You only returned the investment. Bankruptcies are used as a strategic negotiation tool. And that's what companies do sometimes. They use it as a strategic something. Hard time saying this word. So they use it as a strategy. It's like, okay, what do? We don't have, so they're trying to restructure debt or restructure. They have, I think, has a story about airlines. They had a unions problems and things like that, and they were able to negotiate better prices, better compensations, and such, and therefore there is abuse in some way in bankruptcies. So that's it for the notes. Again, it's not the best. It could be better. The writing is pretty good, but I wish he could do a better job about actually teaching us about the wisdom of finance. Forget about our life. And that maybe I haven't said that, but what he actually teaches about our own life, about the real life, I would call it, is things that are super obvious in most self-development books. It's like it's nothing new. And the things about finance, it's also most things that I knew. I was hoping for new information, which I was lack of. That's it. Thank you.